you subscribe to Pando? That's so hot.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of FC Chat. And this is where we're at least trying to get FCs together, talk about all kinds of things about FCing or anything FC related, really. Sometimes we might just talk about, whatever, right? It's a conversation, not a strict interview. And but I think one thing we should definitely talk about is like the whole RoCkEt thing, because our two guests, or let's say I say the RoCkEt thing, right? As in my mind, it's like one thing, but at the moment, I think RoCkEt is changing quite a bit, or like has been for a while. And both my guests are currently, I would say half and half in RoCkEt, half in RoCkEt, but they have definitely a lot of, or RoCkEt for sure has a lot of RoCkEt experience. For those who are not aware, he's a little bit of an infamous guy, mostly known back in the day, like has always been like the hunter type, and very well known for his like hunting of supers and I mean, everything really, right? Super Titans, everything that's juicy. And currently, like, and you're also the leader of now, you could say, a coalition, right? And they conquered Providence. And then Seddow actually used to be, when I first heard of Seddow, he was actually FC in, who has also a great technique at opening cans, by the way.
Oh, that made my teeth hurt.
I got to know Seddow the first.
I learned how to open that like a year ago. I've done it ever since.
Well, like, so from where I actually know you, other than opening cans with your teeth, is when you started FC in Legacy and you took over a little bit more of a leading role and you took on the campaign against Fraternity. And you like to fly Stukas. I mean, you call them Gokus, I get it, but you know what I mean. So, I mean, we kind of got to know each other there. And you have been on before. I forgot which episode it was, actually, for those who are interested.
I was like episode 8. It was still when I was in Legacy, I think. And it was like, we talked a lot about Goku and Stuka.
Yeah, I think it was pretty early on, actually. So episode 8, something like this. 8, 9, 10, something like this. But yeah. You did actually fairly big change in playstyle, right? From Legacy, and then you decided at some point, like how long ago is it? I don't know, to change it completely, and then you joined a smaller group.
Yeah, so I had an alt corp in test, and after the frat war, I was really burned out. I didn't know what I wanted to do with the game anymore. I really didn't know, and so was I due to the frat war. I'm still in college, so due to the frat war, I had um, basically I had messed up a semester of my college over it. But some people say it was worth. I don't. Looking back at it,
It's very common
so
actually.
yeah, I'd ruined a semester of
PGL,
my
Killer
college.
B, all the same story. Me, right?
Yeah, I ruined a semester of my college for the frat war, and so I said I can't. I had a long. I basically took like a month and a half off, 2 months, and then came back and I was like, look, I want to play the game, but I want to play it the way I want to play it versus leading Legacy at the level I was leading it and being as involved with it as I was. So um, I got all my tunes into my alt corp that was still in test, and I said my goodbyes. I still consider test and Legacy my home because it's where I was born and raised and got to the level of knowing the game and playing the game the way I do now. But looking back on it, I'm just like, I can't go back to that level because A, I don't have the time. B, I'm focusing on my real life. But I mean, yeah, I've started an alliance now, but it's nothing near the level of investment that Legacy had. I mean, I put a crap ton into my alliance, but I don't stay up from. I don't sleep during the day and then stay up all night to fight fraternity. I can tell you that much. But I looked for a new change of pace. I reached out. Trigger Happy was big at the time. Skill U disbanded like 3 months prior. And so I reached out to Trigger Happy. I reached out to a couple people, and I ended up settling to join Purple Helmet Warriors with my corp with no intention or idea of what I was doing. I just went because I knew it was more of a relaxed play style, more capital heavy, low sec, a lot more older pilots, vets, people who I felt like I could bond with better than a bunch of newer guys in test and the new mindset they had. So I went over there. Then people started asking me to come join after I started having fun. The corp got to around 10 actual people, and then I started to get back into FC. I worked a lot with PL when Kiki fleets were a big thing, and before all
Hey,
the RoCkEt stuff changes. Like I mean, this is like 4 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, and so I was working with them while I was still in Purple Helmet Warriors. Then corp that I knew in test reached out to me saying they wanted to leave and to talk to RoCkEt. And then I talked to RoCkEt. I'm like, hey man, one thing on my to do list is to start and try to make my own alliance. Would you be okay with this? And Wrecking Crew is basically a content group, content coalition. And so like I reached out, I was like, hey, if we made an alliance and tried to grow something out of me and this other corp that I'm really good friends with, would that be okay? And he said yes. And so that's how Dread Bomb was formed. And now we stand at over 120 actual different people in the alliance and just focusing on a different play style than objectives, more fun and just being better.
I've got a
I
lot of
don't know.
respect for that move, I have to say. Right? Like leaving your alliance, even if, especially if you still consider them your home, like making that step. Um, you know, I don't know if some people here, I bet there's a couple inner people here that might be shocked when I say it. Like, I've thought about leaving the alliance like more than once, right? And how, like, you stay for the guys basically, right? That's your, like, those are your dudes. Like, so you stay and you try to make it work, and sometimes it works out, like in my case, and sometimes you have to change it up. And like people don't realize how much it takes to actually make that step, I think, and
Oh, it was a
really
very
don't.
hard step. Like it was not an easy step to do, and I did it. I think I burned a few bridges, but I still think a lot of people that I've considered longtime friends still consider me longtime friends as well. And so, I mean, I still reach out, talk to them every day, and but I found a play style that much better suits what I want to do in the game. That's more fun oriented than objective based coalition level stuff. Like I've changed my whole mindset on this game where I play it for fun versus I play it to like I spent all my objective and strategy and campaign days during the frat war, burned the fuck out of that. I'm not looking to go back and do an Entosis war every day. I'll do it for a fight, but I'm not looking for like I'm not me and the guys who follow me are not looking to do what's happening in Delve right now to anyone. Like we have space in Providence now, but that's only space. Like if Legacy comes and decides to roll it, fuck it, whatever. Like I mean I'll fight for it, but I'm not gonna sit there for 5 hours and do Entosis wars. It's just not me. I put all my effort into that before, not looking to go back to it because now I actually have fun playing the game.
Yeah. I understand, like 100%. I think the Entosis stuff, it's just too unfun to leave it like that much longer, right? I hope CCP is, looking at it, trying to fucking, get it a little bit more on the fun side for people.
It's the same as kind of all mechanics, though, really, isn't it? Because, Entosis fights can be fun if you have the right number of people, but once it gets too big, it's just then no fun for anyone. It's just like any other tie-dye fight, except it's on 10 different grids instead of 1. So it's just not great.
You know what? I think that now that you said that, I think there's a lot of things that need to be coming together for it to be fun. And then I think also both sides have to abandon the objective for it to be fun sometimes. You know what I mean? Both sides have to seek out the fight, which is
there were so many times in the frat war where like our Eagle fleets would actually land on the same gate, or our Munin fleets when it was me versus Elo. And I credit a lot of my current FC ability to Elo because fighting that man every day with Munins taught me a lot of stuff, not just about Munins, but like what else I need to pay attention to. And I also had a spy on BO for a while that I flew underneath him, so I learned a lot fighting Elo and flying underneath him for a while. But like, there were times where we'd get into a big fight, like a big Munin fight, and I'd just be like, they'd be like, all right, do we need to keep streaming into reinforcements? I'm like, yes. What about Entosis? I'm like, no, fuck it. Let's just take the fight. We'll Entosis it again some other time. Like I came for the fight.
Yeah. Thanks for the raid, Jabby, by the way. Right. For those who don't know who Jabby is, check him out, obviously. Right. Good friend. And we had an episode the other day.
Good night,
2 weeks
Jabby.
ago. Yeah, night. And when it comes to Elo, yeah, he's like, when it comes to Munins, he's the FC, right? Like, if you want to measure yourself, like, Munin-wise, like, that's what you should be doing. Obviously, I mean, you almost have to outnumber him, but then also, if you make a mistake, he's aggressive enough to capitalize on it, right? That's what I feel like is his style there.
I'll be honest though, man. There were times I ended up getting to a point where I could beat Elo pretty occasionally, and most of the time outnumbered. Hey man, I was really good back in my prime. I don't know about now, but like back in the day, there were fights where I'd fight Elo 1-on-1 and either like 10 or 15 less Munins and still somehow win, whether it be target calling to the pilots in the fleet, But I
don't think you've even been playing long enough yet to say way back in my prime.
Fair enough.
But yeah, like, so how did you guys actually connect then? So you decided to make that step. You just reached out because of the, the impression you had. It's a module group and so on. And then you contact him. And then what was your reaction, Rocco? Like, what did you think?
Well, I mean, for me, it's pretty simple because so RC is kind of weird in structure. We run like an alliance, but like in game, we are a lot of different alliances. So like an alliance in RC is the equivalent to being a corp in any other alliance, pretty much. So the alliances are kind of run like that. We have like a shared internal structure, but it's designed really to put people who want to create content on a pedestal and give them people that will follow them and give them the numbers to get a critical mass to do the things that you want to do. Because you can't take out like a 30-man Munin fleet. There's no point running RT max if you only have 30-40 of them. You need the alpha, right? You need critical mass, and RC can put those numbers behind an FC. So when Seddow dropped me a message and was like, I want to come fly for you, I'm like, well, okay, I know who you are, I know what you do. If you can make people want to fly for you, then the world's your oyster, right? and obviously it didn't take very long at all for that to take off. I mean, he was inactive for a while he was busy with class and general IRL shit. But RC's had no issue following him, and none of them do. So for us, it's kind of been a great. It's very difficult to merge or get a group into RC, simply because you have to gel with all the existing people, and there's a lot of them, and some of them have been playing a long time and are very bitter about everything ever. So it's not always that you get people with that right mentality to fit in. And Seddow and to their credit as well, everyone else in Dreadbomb, the TSK guys, good old boys, they've all come together, and they seem to work with us fairly well. It's mutual benefit really. On my side, Seddow wanted to create his alliance. I think from my perspective, I saw him as a capable leader, a capable FC, and didn't, for me, there's no issue saying yes, put him on a pedestal and let's see what he can do with a group within RC. But in the same way, also to give Dreadbomb the freedom to do what they want to do and do deployments and stuff like that. I mean, the people in RC are notoriously lazy when it comes to moving anywhere out of our home system. The only place they go is like through Sinos and back again. And the only things that take gates are the Sino pilots. So, yeah, they don't go anywhere, and they're useless at deploying jump clones. They won't really go anywhere. But Dreadbomb is different, and Dreadbomb will deploy. So it allows the other RC groups to really dip in and out of kind of each other's content. So, Dreadbomb can deploy wherever. They've still got content at home if they want it. They've got somewhere to fall back to if they ever need it. We can deploy and support them, vice versa. So it's a nice dynamic really, and it's one that we try and keep fairly not unique, but we try and deal with it our own way. So our entire leadership structure is basically our FCs. The people that make decisions as to how we move forward are our fleet commanders, rather than inactive leadership that hasn't logged in for years and has no idea what's going on. But it gelled pretty well with Seddow's mentality. So for us, it was an easy decision.
You know what? I liked what you said, like make people want to fly with you. You know what I mean? When someone joins like a big name FC, like then you would always run the risk of like, oh yeah, this guy is now like whatever, like a strategic FC here, right? That would be a mistake, right? Let him restart. And if people want to fly with you, and that's the rule should be like that for every FC really. If people want to fly with you, you're doing something right? It doesn't even matter what content it is.
Yeah, I mean, on my side, all I literally had to do was ping a few times for him, tell people to jump in his fleet, and then that got the ball rolling, right? And everything else, like, he did himself. So, like, I mean, everyone knows, obviously, like, if you ping your alliance or you ping your coalition, different amounts of people show up depending on what the ping is and who's pinging, right? Yeah. Between, like, other than like, well, there's me, Spartan, and Seddow, and if any one of us pings, we get like pretty much everyone we're going to get.
Oh, is it lagged out?
People that will come and back you up when it's needed, right? But it takes some time to get that kind of respect and earn that respect in the group, and a lot of kind of the only thing that's always made me cautious about taking on FCs that have got a background and they've just come out of the whole Sov-War thing is that you go from null sec to low sec or vice versa, and you think you know everything until someone shows you you're wrong, right? And it's a lesson to learn. Like, I mean, every time we've taken on a new FC, so we had things like you don't go dread bombing Provi in EU time zone because their EU time zone's a lot bigger than ours and they will have more dreads, and it's just a numbers game, so we're always going to lose. So then I wake up in the morning and I'm like, we lost 85 pen dreads last night. It was EU time zone. What the fuck, boys? I said 2 days ago. But no, the thing is, Spartan did that as well. So Spartan did it like 2 weeks after joining. I was like, don't do this again. And we all agreed as a command team we'd never do it again. And then Seddow appears.
Hey, I was not in command at the time. I was just a regular member pinging for a fleet, all right? I was not in command. That was never told to me, all right?
Okay, plead ignorance.
I am.
Was that super early? Because like that's what I thought when you said like, so you ping for him, right? And then what happens if you ping for him and then 100 people join? I don't know what is the fleet size usually that you guys would get? Would you get 100 people on like a casual kind of ping?
Yeah, but RC at its prime, like during the Proby War, like I don't know, 4 months,
Prime, like a week ago.
Yeah, 3 months ago. Like during the Proby War when everyone was active. Like I'll be honest, World War B has taken a lot of I think everyone's pilots away, and RC especially because for other reasons, but everyone sort of took a step back from the game while this war's happening because there's not much to do, and so like in like the peak of the Proby War, like I don't know, a month before they ended up folding and we agreed to the NIP, we were filling a full Macarial fleet with like 190 Macarials or more, and then like another 50 man Entosis fleet.
That's a blob, yeah.
Yeah, it was ridiculous because I mean we started like as 25, 30 guys.
That's how I remembered you guys.
Yeah, we started as 3, believe it or not. We've just going around hunting random supers and just ganking them. And back then it was new and there weren't many supers around, and it was something special when a super dies. Now there's no fucking point.
It was even news when the nukes died. Like I remember these times. Like
yeah, like there'd be an Eve News 24 article every time one blew up. Now if you did that, you'd basically have to write a book every day, right? It's stupid.
Yeah.
But like we went from kind of like the small gang kind of, we used to just be the guys that would drop a triage carrier at the time, right? And then we wouldn't have a doctrine. We'd just fly like whatever faction battleship we wanted to. Oh, Seddow's gone.
I'm just gonna hope he's coming back. Oh, no, it's all mixed up. Fuck.
Was it the camera you worried about?
Yeah, the cameras are all mixed up now.
Hell yeah.
Oh no, it's all fixed again.
Was that me? Was that? Oh.
Yeah, your camera stopped, and then it mixes the whole thing up, which is weird, right? But yeah, sorry, RoCkEt, keep going.
Yeah, so I mean, the thing that really changed for us was when we got a Keepstar, because I mean, I didn't. So the thing is, right, I wanted to carry on doing we'll be 25 guys, no one will come and kill us because no one gives a shit, and we're gonna just keep ganking their supers as they drive past, and then hope that no one really notices. And then we got a Keepstar, and I'm like, well, why do we want a fucking Keepstar? And the guys are like, oh, we're building one, can we drop it? So I'm there like, fuck, now I have to drop a Keepstar and it not die. So then it goes up, and then I'm like, well, now I have to fucking defend this thing, don't I?
No, you're stuck, right?
And I can't do it with 30 guys. So we're building up, and then obviously Snuff comes knocking, like the following April. It'd been up for like 8 months. Was it the one in
Kamal? No.
Yeah, that was the Kamal one that we...
Oh, right.
I mean, that was interesting mainly. So no fight happened on the final grid. It was just like the politics game that had been ongoing for a week. Kind of everyone then found out about it, and I just sat there and troll faced. But essentially, when it went through Shield, so CBA at the time had dropped a fort to the north of us in Hothamu, and Snuff used it to mid. But the fort was intended as bait. CBA thinking we'd attack them and Snuff would come in and shoot us. Obviously, we're not idiots, so we knew exactly what was going on, and we saw Snuff mid. We assumed that they'd shoot the Keepstar the following day, and they did. And then I got, because of some previous grief that had happened between Snuff and Test. Test was moving south on a move up. Snuff, we formed for Test move up to try and gank them. Snuff formed because they found out something was going on. Test and Snuff speak to each other, and they're like, "Well, let's have a deal. Let's go and shoot RC." And
God damn it!
Yeah, so obviously, Billy then gets in touch with me, has a conversation, and basically says, "Well, I mean, we've got like 300 guys here. It's just going to be a bloodbath anyway. So let us move through with no hassle, and we'll chill. We'll leave you to it. We can drop structures and then we can pull them up afterwards." I was like, yeah, fine, just clean up your mess after you. So we stood down, went home, or we're about to go home, and Test did their next mid, at which point Snuff dropped them and killed like 2 Titans and a couple of supers, I think, something like that.
Wait. Is that the one where this infamous fucking combo happened with High and Willy, where High didn't explicitly say what he was fought for and stuff, like, you know, that's like, it's always one of those cases.
This is the one where Willy PM'd High, saying, I think this is the one where Billy PM'd High. He's like, "Hey, I see you formed. I hope this isn't for us." And in High, I think said might not be, or so. I don't know if he even
No.
responded.
I know what he said. He
He
said
something.
there's a timer here and there. That's what he said, literally. He just said something else. He didn't even answer the question directly, right?
They both definitely knew it was. So the issue was basically that Billy spoke to Os and brokered a deal with Os after he'd spoken to Snuff, and Snuff didn't like it and went and pulled the trigger. But Snuff only pulled the trigger literally just after they'd been told that the deal had been made with RC. So
who is right? Right.
High knew what he was doing when he went in. And although, he didn't explicitly say he wouldn't shoot Test, it was like, let's work together to kill RC. Therefore, it's kind of implied.
But then at the same time, I mean, High is a friend of mine, obviously, right? So at the same time...
High's a good guy. He just wants content.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, it goes both ways there, right? So they talked first, and then he makes it, like, Willy makes a deal with you guys. That's just... You could see that as just as much of a backstep as him not saying explicitly, like, oh, no, we're not formed for you.
Definitely.
Right?
Well, Willy, I mean, you can say that Willy shouldn't have started the conversation with us if he'd already spoken to... The thing is, all that would have happened is we'd have all just sat there, and Willy just wanted to get his move up done, which is why that happened. But I mean, I haven't seen the original conversations, and but I know it was enough to cause friction between them. So when Snuff reinforced our keep, the first people, despite being like largely pan-fam aligned myself with my own history in PL, I went straight to Willy and basically said to him, so you got a bone to pick with Snuff? They're shooting our keep star. Well, we expect the keep to die, but let's see how many Snuff Titans we can kill at the same time. So we decided to blue. This was before the armor timer as well. So it'd gone through shield and it was in armor. And I said, we're not going to form critical mass in time to do anything for the armor timer. So blue ball it, let them think we're not defending it, and form for structure. And then I spoke to PanFam and Horde and NCE and everyone else in the next few days, basically. And managed to get Frat and Test not to shoot each other, despite the fact they just declared war on each other. That was interesting.
I remember that, dude.
America.
I was in class, and I forget which Test FC it was like, "Hey, are we forming for this keep?" And Billy's like, "Oh yeah, I got it." And like I was like a week before they moved me to Sky Marshal for that campaign, and so I was like, I'm in class, whatever. I come back, Discord's fucking open up with red messages, like people like, what the fuck, because apparently we're defending the RC Keepstar, and God, the FC channels that day were all over the place.
Yeah, well, it was like an axe to grind, wasn't it? That was the whole thing behind it, and I think most people understood it by the end. But for me, it was like I knew exactly kind of who would be on our side from before the armor timer. And goons were notified in advance about the fact that Test would be siding with us.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was like 24 hours before.
Didn't you move supers for this, Pando?
Yeah, I didn't.
And it came all the way down. Well, it came all the way down.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's a fucking journey, man. That's like 10 mids.
I was surprised too. But so like when I say I'm like friends with High, Shines is even more of a friend with High and Tau, really, because like he like worked together with them all the time. I did it every now and then, and but so I don't know why, like in hindsight now, like why would Snuff need us if it was just you? You know what I mean? So if it was just you versus Snuff, they wouldn't need us technically. At the time, they were bigger than you guys, right?
Well, the answer to that is PanFam.
Yeah, so then he heard about PanFam, and PanFam, I mean, I have to think about where on the map Kamal is, but I think for PanFam it would be slightly longer of a journey to get there, and they wouldn't be willing to move Supers and Titans. So if we moved them, we could just cockblock PanFam from coming in, so Snuff could just, grind the thing down. So Shines was on
Titans though, when you can just hand out like 200 dreads to Horde. Here you go. Here's our dread cash. Knock yourselves out, boys.
I mean, back then, dreads weren't as strong, right?
No, but they didn't need to be.
Against only snuff.
Given the numbers.
If it's only snuff, yeah.
But I mean, the numbers that we put together were ridiculous, because between PanFam, us, and Test, we had about 560, 570 dreads from memory, something like that.
Holy shit!
So when you say dreads didn't do much back then, but
the
we
500
had like
did
600 of them, yeah. So it would have been like none of us expected the Keepstar to live, right? We all expected it to just die. And then when it came to actual game time, we reinforced Kamal. In fact, yeah, we reinforced Kamal's node, piled everyone in. Snuff had an Astra on grid. So we figured out some ping spots and then anchored Sino jammers all over it. So you could only Sino literally right on the middle. So if you Sino on it, the caps jump in and bounce off it and go off tether range. And we had like 2 full Mac fleets sitting off it. And then went to the gate to take the gate control so no one could come in. Obviously, it's dead end system as well. And they didn't want to sign it in anywhere but the Astra. So they either had to come through the gate or they had to sign it on the Astra and bounce off it. And in the end, they did neither. And then the Goon fleet that was on its way was like 1,200 jackdaws or something like that, something stupid. And then they met Elo 2 jumps out in like Mifrata or something like that, which is another low sec system, which should have gone badly for Elo, because he was it was actually Test and Frat fighting side by side against Goon jackdaws at the time, which was interesting. And we kept jumping in like shield triage just to feed to them so that we didn't lose too many units, keep them busy. But the important part is what it really did was Kamal is on a different was then on a different node to the rest of the systems in the pocket, including Snuff's mid. So what we did by taking the fight out of Kamal was tie-dyed the shit out of everything. And it meant that Snuff in it, even if they'd wanted to come in, it would have taken you 15 minutes to log your shit in Hothamu because it was tie-dyed to shit because of the fight we created, whereas Kamal itself was in no tie-dye at all. So we had no issues doing whatever we wanted when we wanted. So that whole thing was kind of planned from early on. We just didn't expect it to say the Keepstar.
You know what? Like, I had no idea it was that much planned, to be quite honest. Right? I mean, first of all, I wasn't running that fleet. I'm not sure if Shines knew about like 500 dreads or whatever. But obviously, we didn't know about the whole, like, who you guys were talking to exactly. And Goons didn't tell us that you guys were like working together with Test. Like, otherwise, we wouldn't have moved Titans in the first place, right?
I can't believe you moved that far.
I was surprised, right? I was super surprised because, yeah, like I said, super far for a start, and we'd never really kind of interacted with Init to give them a reason. It was just the backup of Snuff. I think that was there.
You know what? There's another reason. We, like, traditionally, we always struggled to find ways to use our Supers and Titans, right? Because we're always a little bit more isolated than maybe, we're usually not in Delph. Right now we are. But usually we're somewhere else. And then it's very tricky for us to use our Supers and Titans. I mean, in low sec, you kind of get away with it, right? But
you guys used them in low sec and Syndicate a lot, though.
Yeah, exactly. So in low sec, you can take those risks. You don't have that risk of like getting completely bubble fucked and lose everything. So it's more calculated that way. But I think we've been building up our Super and Titan fleet at the time, and Shines is a Super Titan kind of fanatic, I want to say. So he really wanted to use those, right? So I think that was a big motivation behind the whole thing. He's like, fuck yeah, let's use those and move them, right? And I mean, I don't want to say that was the main motivation, but certainly played a role there. But 1,200 jackdaws casual bet phone. Yes. I mean, I don't know why you would do that when you grind a Keepstar. You don't want the tie-dye, so you don't call in like 1,200 small shit.
Well, that's it. Goons didn't care. Goons didn't give a shit whether it died or not. I mean, if they had and they'd actually formed a fleet to come and kill it, then it would have died, right? Anyway, because of the subcat numbers. But they just didn't care. So they just sent a jackdaw fleet just to kill Malhor, and then
the
it
thing
didn't
is,
die.
I don't think we called them in. Because at the time, Goons and Snuff weren't the best friends anymore, right? So they just showed up as a third party, even though we were there. So what a weird, fucked up political situation that is. Holy fuck. Where's Seddow? Dad is in the house.
Seddow's father's here, the Time Lord. it's literally got a Time Lord named Seddow's father.
They're having a beer now.
He's like, you clean your damn room.
At least give me a beer. But yeah. So Seddow also, when we talked before the thingy that does 5 minutes on a what do you call it, the pre-show kind of thing. Seddow talked about his newest video, and then that is actually the like one of the best recruiting tools. I think his dad realized.
Sorry, Twitch chat is killing me.
he was on the he was on the interwebs. That is a first time on this one. I've never seen that one before.
I'm having so much fun right now.
Should I turn his camera off though?
No, let it happen.
Back now.
It is too funny to do it, right? All right, let's see what the story is here. What was going on?
Dad?
What was going on, Seddow?
Oh,
Were you getting swatted?
No. I live in our fraternity's house, and tonight's like formal night, so everyone's getting dressed up and all that sort of stuff.
It's not. We all thought it was your dad.
Yeah, we all
You thought it was my dad? No, it was not my dad. I live in the fraternity house, not my dad.
It would have been
We'll have to
funny.
cut that bit out of the video.
That was my best friend I've known since, I don't know, 3rd grade.
All right.
Same college, same fraternity, everything.
Not your dad then, no?
No, not my dad.
Most likely not. Most likely not. Let's keep it like that. Oh shit.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I keep forgetting to have a fucking camera on. I've never fucking do cameras, so.
It's totally.
And
And the
first
house
time
is
you
really
do
busy
it, right?
right now. The house is very busy right now, so.
Why aren't you dressed better if it's formal night?
Because I'm on this
You're wearing
fucking
a
show.
fucking t-shirt.
I haven't got a chance to change. You want to see me change live? Like I'll
Well,
do it.
that's true.
but, like,
Actually, he didn't have the time. He was kind of.
I got home, came straight to here.
And I appreciate it. But yeah. So wait a second. Seddow, what we were talking about, and when did you have to go AFK? So we talked about the command keeper thing. Seddow, were you in test at the time, or were you already?
I was still in test. So
yeah.
The time span is Frat War just started. Kamal happens.
Oh, yeah,
about
true.
a month later, I become this campaign commander, like Sky Marshal, whatever you want to call it. 8-9 months pass. Frat War's over. I take a break. Sort my real life more. Figure out what I'm doing with my life. I'm 20 at the time, 19, 20 at the time. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? And so I figure that out, and then come back. Let's see. Eve, who? 1 second. I don't fucking remember what month it was.
Making me feel old, by the way. You don't need to pull more dates out from Zekiel if that's what you're looking for.
A year ago, literally, right? I was 20 at the time.
It was December of last year, so it was almost a year ago. I joined and left for Purple Helmet Warriors, and then let's see, Purple Helmet Dread Bomb was created 4 months ago now, something like that. So I stayed in Purple Helmet Warriors for 4 or 5 months, and then Dread Bomb was made. Yeah.
And how was the command thing for you? Like was it exactly?
I was in class. I missed it all.
I don't
know. I don't know. Like I was in class and I opened up my laptop, saw Discord. I'm like, this is gonna turn into a clusterfuck. So I closed Discord, and I wasn't the campaign commander at the time. So I was like, I'll let Billy deal with it. And then I come back and I hear what happened. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, to be honest, I didn't know RoCkEt that well. I didn't know High that well at the time. Now I know. I feel like me and High are good friends now. But like, I didn't know any of the players that well. And so I was just like, oh, shit happened, whatever. I just know Valcorsia bitched and moaned about it. But
Valcorsia. I've never read anything he ever said, but I've read that name so many times recently, I can't even believe it. Like that dude, like he got banned from Reddit, right? Didn't he? Because he made a post and then tried to switch account and answer his own thing to like fake, some shit talking or whatever. I don't even know. And then he didn't realize he didn't switch account, so everyone saw it. And then a screenshot came up, and then he got banned because it's against the Reddit rules.
He's fucking baited
It's
himself.
for all the stupid things to get banned for, the amount of shit that he's chatted over the years, right? To get banned for that, like,
It's funny.
Really? yeah, it's just a bit of a random one. Also, Seddow's father's calling him again.
Dad, I'm on a show.
No, don't make fun of Seddow. He's
I will
still
make fun of Seddow.
We've broken it now.
Someone says the post was Photoshop. Was
I'll
it?
be the what?
Oh, sorry. We were talking about Valcorsia's fuck up on Reddit, which got him banned.
No, it wasn't Photoshop. It was
No.
talked to. I mean, you're in Blue Donut, aren't you? It was talked about all there.
I don't read that. To be quite honest, I don't read it.
I only read it whenever it gets spicy.
I was told, like, I joined it. So for those who are not aware, right?
Brisk invited you, right? Yeah.
There's this Discord server called the Blue Donut, right? Funny name. There's like all FCs from all the groups in there. Like, you know, some groups have more FCs than others in there, to be quite honest. But that fucking thing exists. And then all the FCs talk to each other, right? And the idea, which I like the
CSM's in
idea.
there too.
Yeah, so the idea, I like it, is that they talk about stuff and then like changes and problems in the game and all that stuff, and the CSM can get their information there, right? That's kind of the idea. And it was started actually by Sword Dragon. But I always felt like first I thought it's a PanFam thing because there's so many PanFam guys in there that I always thought it's a little bit hostile of an environment to put myself into. I just didn't want to, you know, expose myself to that shit. And then I left again. And at some point, Sword Dragon pinged me for because he said there's gonna be like a CSM discussion, and then the biggest three issues in the game everyone should bring forward, and then everyone should be trying to kind of get on the same. So we're compiling a list of issues, and then to give it then to CCP directly. And I thought that's a good idea, right? That's a solid step in the right direction, probably. So I rejoined it. And I thought, I thought it got somewhere. The funny thing is, there was like 10 points on the list. And I think bushing wasn't even on the list of the top 10. And the first thing Sword Dragon brings up at the CSM meeting
You're
was
not the only one who was upset about bushing.
But it was funny, right? So I was like, oh my god, like, how's that even happening? But it's all fine, right? Like, I'm over it, guys. I'm over it.
It's fine. This is fine.
I'm
not mad.
I think Brisk has the server ownership now, and he pulled all the CSM in there, and it's structured a lot better now, and a lot of it gets there's trash talk, but a lot of it gets into discussion now. It's fine.
Yeah, and I left that server again after that discussion because I thought it was kind of pointless. And then Brisk asked me again, and I rejoined, but I didn't read anything yet, so I didn't see a lot of discussion going on, to be quite honest. Like, there was like a little bit in the CSM channel thing there, but there wasn't a whole lot, to be honest.
I don't know. To be honest,
You're there for the memes.
Yeah, I'm there for the memes. I'm there for the memes and to see
Seddow
Big
does
Bill.
not mean-
I'm there for Bill.
Oh yeah, Bill is the goon guy, isn't it? I don't know, to be honest.
Bill is the
Yep. Big Bill.
like if Goons ever collapse, I want Bill. I want Bill so bad. He is my heart and soul.
All right, I don't even know the guy, to be quite honest. Like,
You should get to know him. He's a good guy.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. But yeah.
Explain these Gilas. Explain the thought process.
You want to talk about the Gilas?
I want to talk about these Gilas that I've always seen one battle report about and never seen anything else because it seems like they get used and they feed or they don't get used. That's what I've seen.
We had one big let me start back where it actually started, right? So
it was one time.
I started those as like a smaller scale, mid-scale doctrine, right? We also did it with like Tech 1 Vexors and all that stuff. And the idea is, for those who know what I'm talking about, domies are something different. It's large ancillary remote reps, right? So the idea is you can pre-lock your entire squad. So everyone is pre-locked by 10 guys who have all one large ancil. So as long as you don't get alphaed, you should get reps immediately, and your survivability is quite high. And it works, dude. You're
So it's
just
like
rolling those.
hold on, wait. So it's like a cap chain that you just lock the guy above you, but you don't wrap him until he's getting shot.
Exactly. Yeah. So you
That's
have
a lot of faith in your pilots, man.
Well, it worked. The thing is, I tested how scalable it is, right? So that fight that you're talking about, it's the only big fight we had, and we were outnumbered 2-1, and they had caps on field.
It's like an AT comp, is what it, and not really an AT comp, but like your thought process of making it comes from like a smaller group.
So you might be right, but at the same time, I think people always like a little bit of a challenge, right? So I think people. I think people enjoy flying something else than Munins, and they enjoy having a challenge. And we tested it with like on a corp level, 25-man yeet fleets and stuff like this. They're really effective. I took on like with 25 of these, right? Just 25 pilots. That's not all Gilas. That's obviously some bonuses, some like a semi or two, and that's mostly I think 18 Gilas is the sweet spot. We took on Munins, like 50-man Munin fleets, and won the fight. Serbs, Munins, we took on that. I changed the fit slightly for the larger scale stuff, more EHP, not so much on drone speed, but they worked really well, right? So the kill speed is quite high. And then on a larger scale, the idea is also, if you have like, let's say, it's very common that you have like 150-man fleets, right? Let's say you have 150 Munins, I have 150-man fleet of Munins, right? Like, how high is the kill speed actually? Are you gonna split your Munins? Like, if you're smart, if you can set it up properly, you might be able to alpha 2 Munins at once.
If it's
or
Munin, you should be, if in its close range, 20 to 25 Munins can alpha another Munin. So you broadcast 5 targets at once and just say go down the list, and the people who don't get on the first kill go to the second kill, and you have 5 dead Munins in ideally 10 seconds. See, this is all stuff I fucking learned after fighting Elo day to day.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
at the same time, if you don't alpha stuff right there, so like let's say you alpha you broadcast 5 and you don't alpha them, or like they all survive just barely, they all get saved, right? So it's like there's always a risk with like over broadcasting. So if you're very experienced, I believe you can find that sweet spot like way easier. Like, how much do you broadcast, right? And how fast? So that's the skill, really. When it comes to target calling, that's a real skill that people underestimate, I think, right? A lot of people hyperventilate and go too fast.
Like,
and then
I
the
look at
Gilas,
videos of other people flying Munins, and I just think to my head, I'm like, why is he calling so slow, or why is he shooting this guy? Like, that is always my thought process. Why are you doing that? I don't look
Why
at
is
it.
he trying to hit shit doing 2K a second with max transversal?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
why the fuck is he shooting scimitars when you can be alpha in Munins and getting rid of DPS? I don't get that concept. If you can alpha a Munin, do it.
well, so it always depends on who you're fighting too, right?
Oh,
Like, if you want to win the objective, and they have like 10 simis, and if they run out of simis, they're going to warp off, and that's what you need. Guess what? You're going to murder those simis quick, right?
yeah. I mean, I guess, but I don't know. The way I always looked at it from Munin versus Munin fight is kill the Munins, because if you kill the Logi, they're going to bail anyways. But you can probably kill 100 Munins before they're like, all right, we've lost this fight, and you may lose 20 or 30, or maybe 40 or 50. But if you target call and play it better, like, here's another fun fact. If during the frat war, no one would really bring support ships, it would be Claymores, Munins, and Semis, like Scythes. No one would bring Hyenas, etc. So like, I would always prop mod off, because it would lower your sig down back to 110 with the NMWD on a Munin's like 435. You remove your sig down to 110. Instead of taking 25 Munins to kill you, it takes 35. So Fraternity would shoot 35 Munins, lose their volley for 5 seconds, but then I shoot 25 into theirs with an MWD on and kill theirs. It gives me 10 more Munins to alpha the next guy. So
Yeah.
like there's small stuff like that. I'm just like, why? Every time I look at a video of another FC, I'm just like, why are you doing that? And I guess that's just the thought process behind it all. And it's not degrading because there's definitely times when like, why are you doing that? Oh shit, see that's smart. But there's like, I don't think besides like, I don't know, block warfare. I just look very differently at now.
So I think there's one reason to keep the prop mod on, which is if you want to switch ammo and outplay someone like this, right? So you can decide what range you're at, right? So if you have prop mod on, I've got it on, or like you've got it off, I've got it on. I can then warp at 100, start with tremor at tremor, you know, and then I suddenly close in.
There's
have
always
the right ammo
ifs, ands, or
instantly.
buts, but like during the frat war, all fights were fucking like Munins orbiting each other at 30 kilometers, load fucking fusion and just kill. Like that was all it was.
Yeah, that's true. I
mean,
watched
those
a couple
were good
of
fights,
those.
and they taught me a lot. But like, it was just the same thing every time.
It is kind of boring, I have to say, right? Like Munins. And now I feel like it's switching a little bit towards Eagles because they're just a little bit more. They're a little bit more chunky, a little bit more.
I like
they've got a little more range,
that
simply.
I like the fact that like I'm in a smaller group now, so I can fly like 50 zealots into 50 Munins or into 100 Munins and win because a block thinks that Munins win anytime. So like U.S. time zone, I had a fight against Fire 5-6 days ago. It was like mostly Razor, and we anchored an Astra House in Scouting Pass. Dread Bomb formed 32 Raven Navies, 2 Holo Dreads, a bunch of anti-cap dreads, and like 2 Fax, 2 Minnows. They warped in 52 Eagles at 0, and we just fucking, because they're like, oh, they're battleships, they're tanky. All right, Eagles are gonna win no matter what. Let's warp in at 0. They warp into 0. We don't lose. We don't get a Raven Navy below 30% shield, and we just go to town with fucking torps and just shred them. I just like, I want the Mun Cruise.
I hope you weren't using torps.
No, it was Cruise. You're right. It was Cruise Precision. It was I think it was Mjolnir Precision. But I just want the meta to shift away from all this block level stuff. I want more smaller sub 150 man 100 fights to happen because after moving to a group like RC, I found that I love and enjoy. I mean, even when I was in test, I ran a SIG called DKS and we'd form 50 guys, and I always loved those fights and setting up for that stuff way more than I did setting up for the block level stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I think less than 150 man fights are some of the best fights you'll ever have in this game.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love doing like the 20-man like limit of the Yeet fleet, for example, right? Which I just said, like with the Gilas, for example, we got some of the best fights. To be quite honest, those are the best fights where everyone kind of counts, right? For example, Isa in her Simi, like holding it together, right? It's like playing the bait to a degree because we're like last Gilas, right? That's what we call them.
Yeah, and everybody always tries to alpha the Simi first.
Yeah, it's like those little things play such a big role suddenly, right? God damn it, the camera's gone again. That's okay.
It's Seddow, not the camera. It's Seddow's gone.
Yeah, it'll fix a sec.
I get to be Seddow though when he leaves.
But I get the thought process of someone going, oh, let's kill the Simi first. I get that. Like that makes sense.
I know, that's why it's fun.
Yeah, no, usually what happens, so like the concept would be 18 Gilas, a Simi, 2 boosters, maybe a Busher or 2, right? I like bushing, obviously. And then maybe a Dicta or so, right? And then usually what happens is they hit the Gila, oh shit, we can't crack it and it's getting repped. Must be the Simi, right? So they switch to the Simi. And then they're like, oh shit, the Simi is even harder. Like, what are we doing? But then they already lost like 3 or 4 Munins, right? And
now that you explain it, those Gilas do make sense, and I get why you would want to run them.
You thought it's a normal remote rep thing.
I thought that, like, I mean, I didn't, like, when I saw the BR, I didn't see a single Simi on it. I just saw Gilas. I'm like, okay, they're just running, like, RR Dommies, but at a cruiser level. And I was like, that just doesn't make sense.
So we have Simis in those Gilas too, but, like, not many, right? So that BR that you're talking about, first of all, I mean, there was a fucking heavy fight to take. We knew they're going to come in with a shit ton of Eagles, and they have some carriers. I was hoping that we would take those carriers on a little bit better, but those carriers actually, that was way more DPS than I thought. So they alphaed the Gilas, which is then a problem, obviously.
Yeah, what do you think about
you won't find the cruiser with my core drive fit. We're just not going to happen.
Bustler's asking if that's what spider rep means or if that's something else.
That's what spider rep means. Yeah, like if you
Do you think
like,
carriers in their current state are dumb, overpowered, or okay?
I think they're a little bit too strong. Definitely. But what is too strong with them is the whole recall thing that they just recently changed, actually, right?
The warp back thing.
Yeah. I think people don't understand how strong that is, because you can send your drones and they'll never be out of position. Oh no, now you're fighting on 0. Like, let me recall my drones. Boom. Then it's
That was always a thing. It was a thing where, like, if you committed your fighters, you had to commit them, and then you ran the risk if they were 600 kilometers away. If some guy in a saber walks on top of you, drops his bubble, you can't kill him because your shit's 600 kilometers away, right? And that's what 3-4
Exactly.
micro warp drive cycles. So yeah,
Yep.
big change, and one that people didn't really kind of understand the significance of for the most part, as you say. I'd agree.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like they didn't introduce it to from a PvP perspective, right? They didn't introduce it because they had PvP in mind. It's the PvE part really that they had in mind, because what happened was carriers warp out of their SIG or they warp around whatever for whatever reason. And if they recall their drones while they're in warp, the drones would then land on the first spot on grid with the warp point, which is 5,000
I feel like
away.
that's an easy change, because all you have to do is, like, instead of having it land at 5,000, just change the code to where it's like, okay, they actually don't recall till he comes out of warp at that spot, and then they go there. Like, I feel like that's an easy change, but I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how easy it is. I don't know the code, right? So might have been that issue there, but like they tried to fix that, but then caused a bigger problem with it, I feel like. And that happened before, right? When we talk about citadels, it always comes up with the bubble range and stuff like this. They introduced citadels.
Citadels are dumb.
Yeah,
Remove bombs from citadels, and the citadel game becomes 10 times easier and 10 times more fun. Remove bombs, remove the fucking DD. It's dumb.
Were you around for pauses?
No, I wasn't. I joined like 3 months before pauses were faded out and citadels were introduced. And so I never really got a good example of it, but like I talked to people who have done pause before, and like I get that there were cancer pauses, but like I think the fact that Eve is timer based now more than spontaneous, I think is dumb. I think like the spontaneous aspect, I get that there were timers with pauses still, but like there was still a lot of wiggle room there. I just don't like how, okay, I'm gonna toast the system. All right, now they have 2 days, or hit the structure. Now they have 2 days, and they know exactly when it's gonna come out.
So if you think about this, though, right, the reason that there's damage caps on structures when you start shooting them isn't because for any random reason. It's literally because you have to stay on grid for that 24 minutes to reinforce it, which gives someone a chance to go and come and counter you. With pauses, you could just drop 50 dreads and one cycle a Dick Star. So there's no content there because they get in and out before you can shoot them. So from that perspective, it is spontaneous.
So, like, I'm interested in your take, RoCkEt, because you just brought it up.
RoCkEt would have more to say about that than me, yeah.
Yeah, so I had high and shines on last time. And we were talking about exactly that, basically, right? So the argument is, those 50 dreads that one-shot a pause, that's a 5-minute timer still. So if I predict, or I expect you to hit one of my pauses at a certain time, your time zone, where you get 50 dreads, I can have a dicta ready. I can tackle those 50 dreads. That's in nullsec at least, right? In lowsec it's a little bit more tricky, obviously.
The thing is, though, because of timing with the Strunt, people generally didn't hit pauses in their own prime time because they time it so that it would come out at their prime time. So it's a guessing game, really. And, 5 minutes before DT, there's literally no risk.
But at the same time, if I know you want to hit that pause, and I know that's one thing you do is form 50 dreads, hit it so it would come out at a certain time, then I can predict when you would hit it. Then I could have a dicta ready to go as soon as I get the notification, and then I could tackle your dreads and get content. And that's a lot of times what we did in Syndicate in our campaign there, right? We did both sides. We did the 50 dreads alpha the fucking thing, and we were ready like to catch people. And it was good content at times, right? I'm not saying, like, I believe you're gonna say like pauses were kind of aids too, right? And I totally agree with that part too. I think people forget. It's like the crazy ex-girlfriend syndrome, the way you only remember the good times, right?
It's a bit conflicting for me, right? Because obviously I used to, my whole gameplay was like hunting moving supers and people selling shit in poses and doing shit like analyzing their screenshots of fittings to work out where they were, how far from the sun they were, when we needed to put probes, you know, kill the pause, get them to link us to fit, ask them to log in, you know, wait till they land on grid, blow them up. That was, you know, so pauses was our entire gameplay. You know, someone sticking up a pause on a moon in an empty low-sec system is like a massive red flag, right? You know, oh, this guy happens to be a Sinopilot, or his other character has a super. That's weird, you know. But when Citadels first came out, remember, they didn't have that 60-second kind of you jump in and you can't tether thing. So it just meant moving anything on any structure was completely safe. So from that perspective, it completely fucked us over, and it meant that we had to kill literally every Citadel that wasn't ours within our range. So if you look at like Derelict's kill board for Citadels, you're looking at like 350 plus in the region, which is just stupid, just because of that we had to kill them so that people couldn't tether while traveling through our space. But I mean, Citadels are now useful and they pack a punch, which means that you have to field a fleet that's worth shooting for an extended period of time. And it's the time frame that's really more important. Obviously, you don't get the 50 dreads because there's pointless dropping 50 dreads on a Citadel, because one, maybe two of them will do full DPS and the rest are just sitting there like idiots with their dicks in their hands. So you won't get the amount of kind of caps that you get with the pause, but they're there for longer. So if you don't have the intel to predict it, then it is a more spontaneous fight. You could really argue that if you've got the intel that says that they're going to do something at a certain time, is that really spontaneous, or are you planning it? And if you've got that intel, you could just similarly use it for an initial Citadel bash as you could a pause. The only difference is they're not going to throw 50 dreads at your Astra House, whereas they would a large pause. So it's about the scale.
I think that Citadels, I think that they push away capital usage unless you're the defender. I think if you're attacking a Citadel, you don't really want to put caps. Like, no one wants to put caps on grid with a hostile fort. Like, it's just asking for a bad scenario. I think that pauses.
I mean, not in range of the fort anyway.
They're not in range of the fort. I think that pauses, there was a solid like balance between, okay, we have to bring subs, we also have to bring some capitals too. And I think that unless like nowadays you rarely see, unless there's carriers 5,000 off, so the fort can't touch them or whatever the range is. I think that like unless carriers are being like used in that one aspect, like unless you're the defender, you don't really use like if you're attacking a keep star, like Pando, you would know this. When Horde was hitting Fountain and taking it over, they'd put carriers 5,000 off or on their Fortizar all grid or something.
That one time they put them too close actually, and I fucked up the bushes, so I could have boosted.
They put the fighters towards the keep star, and you don't want to dread bomb their carriers because it's on their fort or on their structure, and if you they don't want to dread bomb you on the keep because that's fighting on a keep star grid. Why the fuck would they want to do that? Because of the DD. Like, I feel like Citadels, the way they apply damage to caps and how strong, I think Citadel defenses are a little stronger than POS ever was. And I think that denies people or makes people be like, oh, I don't want to use caps here because yada yada yada. Like when we were attacking Pravi, most of the time we would never drop caps in range or on a Citadel grid. We'd always drop on a gate. Like when we dropped Titans and BTAC W, it was on a gate, and then we warped to our Fortizar. I don't think there was one time that I've been here where we dropped supers in range, but that was on an Astra House, which a fort's completely different than an Astra House.
Yeah, I mean, even an Astra will do just off the top of my head, probably 3-4 times the DPS of an old large pos. And the old poses used to be generally fit with stuff like jammers and hardeners anyway, rather than an actual DPS fit. So when it came to actually using dreads against poses, like caps would do the pos would do almost nothing. But I mean, it has completely changed. The only thing is that obviously with the reduced resistances thing and the changes that they've made in terms of like cap survivability because of those resistances, it means that like you can't really tank a fort with a dread anymore. Not comfortably enough to stay there on grid for the 25 minutes it's going to take.
B-52 still work.
They do if you drop them a bit long enough range, mate.
Yeah, as we found out.
Did you fuck up there?
Fuck ups, mistakes happen.
Yeah, those were my B-52s as well, bro.
Hey, I think we reimbursed you for those, did we not?
No, you didn't. Strange that.
Well, shit happens.
He'll
ISK
reimburse you.
is a number. ISK is a number.
He'll reimburse you in beer on the next FanFest.
Exactly.
Like in 2025.
If we're ever allowed to leave our houses again.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone's a little bit sad about that one, I guess. But yeah, with the Citadel, so what High and so I talked to High and Shines, and I think, in my opinion, what the sweet spot would be, and now I want to hear your opinion on that, is why. So I totally agree with the damage cap, and it can promote content, but not on everything. So what about you have a damage cap on Astra's Fortizar Keepstar, because it's staging citadels, combat citadels, really, right? And then you don't have a damage cap on refineries and engineering complexes. So you would have EHP based POSes on those, right? Would you think that's a step in the right direction, or would you think that's a step backwards, back to POSes, and you didn't like it?
I mean, it would just make people stop dropping Ritarus, and everyone would just drop Astrahouses, so...
Well, you can't drop an Astros and mine the moon, right? So
I don't really see a need to remove the damage cap from one and not others. I mean, realistically, you don't want to be creating edge case mechanics and just changing mechanics for one type of structure and not another just because you don't think it works. If the mechanic doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's not going to work for a Ritaru where it doesn't for an Astra. So, I mean, realistically, they either need to change the whole system or none of it. But I mean, I don't see a need to remove damage caps from Athanors and Ritarus and that sort of thing, just because it just makes it into a POS that's got more damage and can be reinforced in 5 minutes. They still need the survivability. I mean, you look at a Sosoyo, for example, got no damage cap on that. You ain't saving it because they can just jump in 50 dreads and kill it before you can stop them, right? There's no fight there. Because you can literally suicide gank a structure.
Yeah, I think you take away the fucking structure bombs and fighting on a structure because becomes 10 more. An FC is way more willing to fight it on a structure than not. A structure bomb that literally follows the target. Now, if it was a bomb that you had to aim, I mean, maybe that's different. I just don't like how the fact that he can lock a guy, launch a bomb, and it follows him until he either warps off or hits. I think that if you're attacking a structure in a shield doctrine, even an armor doctrine, if you attack a structure in any doctrine, most people will just let you get bombed. This is this would be a strategy I would gladly use. You let the hostiles get bombed on the structure grid. That's why people like anchoring fights more than armor timers. But you let the hostile fleet get bombed until they're 3/4 half shield, then you engage, and they're already a quarter, 3/4 half shield, and you're full shield. It's just the fact that you could do that AOE kind of damage to a full subcap fleet. I think is just really annoying.
I mean, when we were still quite small and Provi started to shoot our forts, we'd use one of our spy characters in a scepter, and then fire the bombs from our fort at the scepter, burn him around grid until all the bombs are roughly in the same place, and then just go and anchor him up on their FC, and you get all 8 bombs hitting at once. Fucking hilarious.
I tried that with Bushing, of course.
Doesn't surprise me.
It's not that hard. It's not that hard to pull it off, really. You can just, you only have to move faster than a bomb and then do circles, right?
Well, most of my guys hate flying subcaps, so I mean, trying to get them to burn out of bubbles is difficult. God knows how they'd boosh anyone anywhere.
How the fuck did you guys then conquer Providence? How the fuck did that happen?
Well, the short answer is we shot them until they left. We didn't invade. We just kind of shot them, took 14% of the region, and then they left. That was it. And then we did 53 sub timers in one day, 53 iHub and TCU timers in one day to take the rest of the region after they
50?
fucked up. 53, yeah.
To this point, didn't put up a contest. It was awful.
I'm fucking grinding Fountain right now, so
RC's goal,
is a solid number.
RC's goal was never to take Providence. It is just a something that happened, and now we own it. And now it's like, shit.
What the fuck do we do now? Yeah,
Exactly.
You know
Like,
what that reminds me of? I'm sorry.
the goal was to sustainably, as people call, sustainably farm Provi. But at some point, something happened or changed. A lot of people say it was my fault, but
Yeah.
whatever. Okay, whatever. But now it just can't be a thing. Now we own the region, and it's like, okay, they're leaving. Who, like, would we rather own the Legion, or would we rather Legacy put a group there? And if Legacy puts a group there, of course we're gonna pick on them because we're basically living right next door, and then that invites Legacy and Test to come fight us. Like, it was just better for us to take it and hold it and be like, okay, people will come to us for fights, and we can still go out for fights, but this just gives people a target. If we lose the space, whatever. Like, whatever. But it's all for content. None of it's like, oh, if we lose our space, we're gonna disband because we're in NullSec Alliance. Like, I grew in love with LowSec after I moved to Purple and Warriors, because like, fuck, they can fucking come kill all my shit. I'll still live in a fucking station. I don't care.
That was always my argument when we were in not in Fountain, in Curse and so on. And we had even, people are gonna fucking be surprised, I guess, but we had that discussion in leadership too, to go back to these days. Because, and the first factor was, like, we had soft from Queries over to Fountain, to Cloud Ring, to Fate, to Pureblind, plus moons in Outer Ring and Syndicate and in Iridia and in, like, we were just so stretched, right? And that kind of, like, we kind of realized that, like, oh, okay, we stretched a little bit far, and then people started hitting Pureblind, and we're like, okay, we can't be asked to travel up there all the time to defend this shit. We kind of abandoned that part. And then the whole snuff kind of fallout thing happened, right? And they came back and started hitting moons that they sold to us prior, and we're like, what the fuck? How are we gonna defend all this shit, right? So, like, I was making a case. People need to
focus more on content than fucking owning a region. Yeah. I think empire builders are bad for the game. I really do.
I don't know if I agree. So, like, a lot of people like that shit, right? Like, there's a reason why there's, like, massive corps like Goons and Test and Horde and so on. There's a and the guys that use that they want content, they kind of need those guys too, right? So I wouldn't say everyone needs to do one thing or the other, right? So we need, like, everything, but we need a better balance, I believe, right? So there need to be
there's way more empire builders than there are content.
Yeah.
I think if every region was like Vale, this game, or that time when there were like 10 alliances living in Delve, all competing to take Delve, I think, like, that was 2013. I wasn't playing at the time, but, like, I heard stories and watched videos about it in the past. That seems like such a fun era that just is really hard to come by now. Like, most nights when I log in, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do for content for the alliance, for the guys? It's hard to find what we enjoy or what we do, or to get a fight like that, because it's either a blob or blue balls, or people want to Entosis. And it's just, I mean, I get it. I was part of Legacy for a while. I get the whole mentality of, oh, they're coming to shoot us. We don't want to get farmed. Let's steamroll them out, not give them any fun. But, like, that's not fun for anyone. Even the guys who are steamrolling them out, in my eyes. Like, I get there's people who want to build an empire and own all the space, but, like, I feel like that's bad for the game's health.
Yeah,
for us, it's kind of depressing as well, because we've always been kind of like shooting Provi, and now we own Provi, and there's a load of people in there that have been flying with us for ages that are just going to get farmed, not by us. We're going to hopefully farm the people killing them, but it's very high hopes and somewhat optimistic.
What do you think of passive moons, Pando? Bring back passive moons. A lot of guys in my alliance want passive moons back. I want passive moons back.
It's kind of part of the same discussion as the whole damage cap thing, right? Like, people always bring that up together, and I believe passive moons would be good in LowSec. I don't think that's in NullSec. I don't think it's good for NullSec. I think it would be good for LowSec, though. There's a difference there, right?
It was.
I agree.
Believe it or not, the moons thing was actually part of capital balancing, because when they made raw calls not shit, because before they were not useful for anything except for the fact that somehow they forgot to remove
Putting
them.
pauses up.
Yeah, they forgot to remove them from the acceleration gates of missions, so you could use raw calls for fucking missions and go around and do your level 2 missions in your raw call. For some reason, you used the gates. There was no other reason to use one but that. But when they made them good, they also had to balance them with risk, and it meant that there had to be a reason for the raw call to actually be on grid and not just sit boosting from a pause. So they had to make them like ridiculous miners, which is why they went the active route, because realistically, by the time they'd made raw calls powerful enough to justify their use, if it was just belts, you'd be clearing them like a ridiculous rate, right? So moons
Jesus
it was.
Christ.
God damn it, your mic.
Fucked.
Yeah, your mic is fucking going crazy.
But like, after moving to LoSec and like living with RC and seeing how it works compared to Null, Null has so many more advantages than LoSec. Like, Null alliances have a passive income tax, which is just taxing. They get all these ore anoms in every system, and I get that CCP want people to go to Null, but like groups that live in LoSec, the only thing really profitable for them is missions and for moons. Like alliances as a whole, like Dreadbomb dot, like we didn't, yeah, Dreadbomb. God, I'm drunk. Dreadbomb like doesn't make any, like the alliance barely makes any money. Most of the money goes individually to members. Like the alliance as a whole has, like, we don't have an SRP thing. We have some cash ships. We have some ships we like to hand out, but we don't have a way for people to make money, or like the alliance to make money, because you can't tax missions. Moons are moons. I mean, I guess you could tax moons, and I mean we do that some, but like there's no way for, I think, passive income. If you're gonna remove it for everyone, aka the TTT and all this other shit. I think that the TTT is like the one big passive thing that's left, and if you're gonna remove passive moons, and CCP came out with that statement that I get sent recordings of all the time, where it's like passive income's bad for the game, people should work for their ISK. Great, do that. Then remove the TTT so these blocks stop getting insane amount of money. I think that the
Well,
TTT is awful for this game.
the TTT is one of the products of the missing foresight of CCP when they introduced citadels.
They
Who
wanted
would
to
have
make
thought?
people use them, didn't they? That's why they did it.
Yeah,
To give them
no,
incentive.
I don't think they consciously did it, right? So they introduced citadels. They didn't think like, are keep stars actually good in high sec? They didn't think about that part. A Fortizar, like, have fun defending a Fortizar of that value over an extended period of time. If that was a Fortizar, someone with money would have killed it before, right? I mean, people have thought about doing it, even though it's a keep star, which is tough to kill with subcaps, like really tough, right? So I think if keep stars weren't a thing in high sec, the whole problem is solved already. But yeah,
No, because you run into the same. I think you run into the same issue as, what was that back when Moongu was passive, and there was that group formed to share the
OTEC?
very, huh?
like, sorry, yeah, keep going. To save what?
There was the group form. Yeah, Villy's right in chat. If it's just Fortisars, the TTT still exists, because when there was that Technetium or the Moon Goo back when passive passes were a thing, where all the north and like the east and the west all band together because that's where the only place it was, and they made bank off selling that Moon Goo. Like, the fact that these groups, the TTT is basically that exact thing in my book. It really is. And I think that these groups bond together. Like, even if that's a Fortizar, then the concept of the TTT exists, because then you have
The concept,
Pan.
yeah.
Yeah, the concept, because then PanFam, Goons, all of them would still bond together to defend a Fortizar. Like,
But you
I think
can't defend a Fortizar as easily as a Keepstar, obviously, right?
sure, but here's the thing though. This is the player thing. You have the three biggest blocks in the game. I don't know if it's a part of this agreement or not, but you have the three biggest blocks in in the
Yeah, we
game
are.
teaming together to defend it, and everyone makes money from it. And that's passive for all the big blocks, but all these smaller groups, like Wrecking Crew, gets no cut of it. I know Snuff gets some sort of cut from it for not fucking with the Keepstar consistently, or the Ignoitant Keepstar. Um, like you have all these small groups who have no way to make passive income. It requires their members to work twice as hard to get any source of income to do stuff. If Villy, as much as Villy wants that TTT to stay up, he's 100% right. It is not the Keepstar. It is the people who are a part of the deal, and that it's everyone in the game, every block in the game, that has access to that kind of ISK.
But my argument is, you can have all those blocks. You're not going to defend the Fortizar that easily. Like, the Fortizar will die if someone has enough ISK to throw at it. Well, that's different with the Keepstar.
Sort of the same. That's sort
you
of
can
the
hit
same.
that damage cap with like very cheap, like affordable stuff, right? I mean, that Facebook group thing, that was kind of laughable. I don't know who that was or whatever. Like, he had like, I don't even know how many dudes he had, like 20 dudes or something. Like, that's not, he tried to get some thing going, whatever. Against the Fortizar, if there's like a solid group, you can definitely keep the damage cap up in high sec on a Fortizar, even though you have like a massive blob there, I think. Right, so you can kill it no matter what, and then the threat of it will already cut into the whole income 100%.
Like, I just think that if they're going to remove the passive moons, then remove passive income completely and do not let a null block control the markets in the trade hubs and high sec. They can control the markets and 1DQ in their space, but if you're like going to Jita and anchoring to Keepstar one jump away, like I was there for the whole TTT thing. I flew some of the Ferox fleets to defend it and kill the other Fortizars. But if you're going to remove passive income from everyone in the game, and then don't let a player control the market and get some passive income off of it. I think that is just a terrible idea and makes it to where, like, Dreadbomb we have to mine moons and do active stuff to make to buy dread caches across the game, because Dreadbomb, Dread, etc. We spent the past 4 months saving up, doing moon ops. The guys get some but the alliance takes a good chunk of it, so we can buy dreads to hand out to do cool shit with. But we don't get a passive income source. We have to manually spend 4 or 5 hours, 4 to 5 hours per person, like every month, to go make some sort of money. I just think that the idea of, if your CCP is going to remove passive income, then TTT needs to go well. I think TTT is bad for the game. It is the next version of OTEC, and it's been that way. It is a brilliant move by Villy and all of them to do that, and to make this agreement and make OTEC version 2.0. Health of the game, terrible though.
Yeah, I think I agree, but I still think a Fortizar would die at some point. But
it's one of those things
but
where,
then they
like,
can anchor another fort.
in general, most people agree it's not good for the game, but also you'd be stupid not to do it if you had the resources.
Oh, I agree.
So,
yeah, and it's it's too hard to kill, really, right? For high sec, like a Keepstar, if it's defended, like, what are you gonna do? You need a full fleet to pause it. Then you didn't win the fight yet, right? So whatever fleet the defenders bring, you have to fight that too. So you have to bring at least what the defenders have, plus 250 people to pause the fucking thing and kill it in an acceptable time. It's
just not healthy for the game, in my opinion. And I think until CCP notices that, or someone from the CSM brings it up to a point where they...
God damn it, we lost the Seddow again.
God damn it.
At least he's reconnecting fairly quickly.
Like, if RC had the resources to do it, I guarantee we'd probably do it on our own. But the people who took advantage of it at the time and do it, like, yeah, I guess that's the best statement. I just, like, either the only reason I bring this up is because LowSec has no form of income, like, besides missions, and a lot of missions are overrun or not run enough because you have groups like Snuff who are in the Caldari zone a lot, like the Caldari LP zone a lot, so it's hard to run missions there, or else you get dropped on or killed. Like, if you look at the market, there is no Raven Navy issue. There is no Raven Navy issue, like BPCs or ships on the market, because no one's running to get the LP for it. Because, like,
would anyone fly them though? That's a question too, right?
I'd fucking fly Raven Navies all day. It's just a better Raven. I don't know. I just don't like the fact that there's passive income.
I mean, same, right? But I would still, like, when it comes to moons, I would still think that passive moons in low sec would probably promote more fights and would be probably result in a better thing. But then, you know, having different rules for the same Citadel type and all that's like, it's a mess too, right? So I don't know the answer for this, like, but I think I mean Willy is on the CSM. I'm sure other CSM guys are like listening in.
Well,
And maybe
Billy's
CCP.
like as much as I think Billy cares for the game, but like I don't know, Billy. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you want to go to the CSM, and be like the TTT needs to get removed because blank. I just don't think he'd do that.
You know, he wouldn't do. I think, or like, let's say, I'm not sure if I think that, but I hope he doesn't do it because he's like because yeah. So I think he doesn't do it consciously, but like he's kind of biased anyway, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you can keep like if you can like blame him for it, right? Obviously.
No, I don't blame him for it. Like I don't hold any grudge on any single person for inventing the TTT or being a part of it because if I given the opportunity, I'm sure Wrecking Crew and I'm sure Dreadbomb would love to
Imagine
be a
Wrecking
fucking
Crew would
part
have
of
that
it.
income.
Dude, if we got approached and we're like, "Oh yeah, if you guys help defend this, we'll give you a cut of the income." I'm pretty sure we'd fucking take it because there's no negatives in it. Besides, you have to defend it if anyone hits it.
What would you guys do if you had that income? I don't know the exact number actually. I can guess it, but like, what would you do with like, let's just say you get
That's a
you get
rocket question.
you get $1 trillion a month, right?
The thing is,
and that's
like,
lower than a.
I mean, ISKA's like never really been a thing for us because most of the Wrecking Crew guys have been playing for like 15 years and have like 4 or 5 Titans each, and God knows how many hundreds of bill just sitting in liquid. So the old school guys, it wouldn't really make a difference to in the way we fly, and we've always been kind of so our play style in terms of the way we fight has always been tactical and escalation and planned. So generally, if it's a fight that we've planned on, we've already won the fight before we hit grid, and the enemy just hasn't worked it out and run away quickly enough. So we try and fight very efficiently. So ISK for us really hasn't really been a concern. It's not slowed us down. Until kind of recently, we've not even been hitting the kind of numbers where we could lose too much and bankrupt ourselves. I mean, we've been pretty close to the line a few times, and like I've had to bail the group wallet out myself a few times. But we're now at a point where things are so stable that we're not short of ISK. We wouldn't use any more if we had more. The only thing that we would do is put dread caches everywhere, pretty much, which would be great for us, but it's a lot to manage. And do we have time to be running around the whole map, pissing people off and dropping dreads on everyone's faces? Is it a good idea? Probably not. You know,
Not the worst idea.
The thing is, like, so for example, if we stuck a dread bomb in legacy space and started shooting legacy, 3 or 4 dread bombs down the line, someone's going to get pissed off and we're going to get our shit pushed in, right? So it's not something that we would do consistently, even so, because we like to pick our targets and play it that way.
I mean, if you have unlimited ISK, you could.
The game's not fun with unlimited ISK, though. Like, in honesty, what I would do if we had that kind of income, probably quit because it would be fucking boring.
That's actually, I mean, that's a good point.
Billy says the passive income allows for specialization, and
I agree. And like, here, Billy, does Fraternity get a cut of TTT? That's a good question to know because like they're more crabbing than I would put them as militaristic. And then you look at groups like Test, who is focused completely on this war and always is like quote unquote a militaristic group, and like I like old PL, you know, they had all access to all these passive moons and were just a military powerhouse. And I think that'd be good for the game. But the fact that there's only one, if you're gonna, I don't know, if they're gonna allow the TTC, allow some other form of passive income. Like I think the idea of having low sec and NPC passive income would be great for those groups because a lot of them are PvP focused. And I do understand the argument that I do understand the argument that if passive income was introduced there, then no blocks would come through and take that space and abuse them, and I get that. But like my group, like Dreadbomb, would struggle ISK-wise to consistently do PvP stuff on a personal and probably an alliance level because we don't have access to passive income. Whereas Test can feed mutants on mutants on mutants on mutants a day, or Horde can feed mutants on mutants a day and have no repercussions about it because SRP and because of all this other stuff.
It's weird for us though, because obviously, like we wouldn't use it because we're not big enough, and it's not our play style to end up needing that much because we've always flown the way we do. So it's a bit of an odd question to be presented with because it's not something that we've aimed for or considered, I guess.
Yeah, well, so I totally get your point, right? Because on a corp level, that's what we do, right? My corp, we always like, I reinvest every ISK we have always into like content, right? So I'm buying weird doctrines, for example, like weird Gila fits and shit. So like, and if someone loses like a jump freighter who's jumping a lot for stuff for corp, for example, we replace that kind of stuff and so on, right? So like we have ISK, we spend it. So, and I always like that too, that aspect of like when you actually are low on ISK and you have to pay a little bit more attention. Like I think it like motivates you to pay, like to be a bit more efficient.
I agree.
Right?
I agree. It motivates you to fly better, and it motivates you to plan or think more strategically. I think so I came out of test with like 100 bill, 115 bill liquid. I'm now basically as like a month ago I went broke, and I actually had to start crabbing again. So that's like 4 or 5 months of doing that. And that time Dreadbomb was formed, I put so when we whelped our Titans, I reimbursed all of them out of most of them out of personal risk because the Alliance was making next to none. So that sent me broke again. And then we took space in Provi, that cost ISK. And you think of all this stuff, and like I want to keep doing PvP stuff. We invested in a capital cache. We have like 100 bill in a capital cache. And like I think I'd like to think that I invest all my money back into the Alliance into content generation, but that like we don't have a way to get that besides forcing people to crab or telling people, hey, you need to crab if we want to do stuff. And I hate saying that, but I get it.
Yeah.
What you want to do is find people who like to crab and then ask them to give you a cut in exchange for your safety that you provide.
The rental program is born.
I'm looking for renters for Provi. Who wants it?
I was about to say, like, anyone want to rent Provi? I thought always Provi is a great region. Right?
With the shittest moons and the shittest space, it's a wonderful combination. It's like, for us, it's like we live in RoCkEt, right, which is like our kind of house, and then Provi is like the back garden, but it's like you've just moved in and there's still a digger in there and loads of bricks, right? And it's never going to get any prettier. So here we are, right? I mean, if someone comes in with a bulldozer and levels it for us, you're probably doing us a favor, because
and then that's where that's another thing where you get into empire building, and it's just like I get that you need to empire. The fact that the reality of the matter is, if you want to be a PvP centric group, you have to empire build in some way, shape, or form if you want to, unless your pilots can sustainably hold their own ISK. Like I don't think Snuff is an empire builder, and they expect that their pilots to sustainably hold their own amount of ISK. But they also have the top northern half of RoCkEt and all those moons. And you need an empire, and like I don't know. Sometimes I love this game. Sometimes I fucking want to smash my head through a TV. Like I don't know. Like there's no such thing as passive income anymore besides the TTT. And if you want to be a militaristic group, you need to build an empire because you need ISK to sustain it. And that's just not how it works. It is how it works, but it's not the way I think it should work. But I don't know how you change that. At least I haven't put enough thought into it to be like, oh, this is how you fix that.
Maybe someone smart can figure out what we're talking about and get the solution, and then post it on Reddit. And
the problem is though, like no matter
Billy, give me a passive income source.
You change one thing, like you break 15 other things. It's like when they changed something with postcode and then local broke. Like what the fuck is that about, right? But like even when you change a mechanic that you know you're changing, you can affect things that you just wouldn't think about. So you always find that someone will turn around one day and be like, oh, I can't get that through a wormhole to put in my keep star, and then CCP's like, oh, why didn't we think of that? But Even when you know the initial kind of like complications, you never and CCP has seen this time and time again. So they wanted supers and titans to be used. So they gave them more DPS and made them more powerful and made them more easy to build. Now they're fucking everywhere, right? And years ago, CCP was like, oh, there'll only ever be like 5 or 10 titans. Like, so Eve players will always adapt and to the new situation, and will always kind of make a mockery of CCP's expectations as to what's going to happen next. So no matter what you change, you're always going to get a new game-breaking way. I mean, it's like the basis of like escaping from prison or hacking or anything, right? Like, there's a system there that's designed to work a certain way, but there's always a way to do something different with it and break something. Or in our case, in Eve, with supers and titans, for example, have so many of them that you break the balancing that's intended to keep things even. Like supers and titans weren't unbalanced; they were only unbalanced because of the fact that they were being used in numbers that they were never intended to be used for, and the balancing they had just completely went through the window after you go over that kind of top limit, which is why we now have like diminishing returns, so that on fax reps, so that there's an effective ceiling on the tank you can have for supers and titans. You know, they will die to DPS. If you get 60 dread shooting a super or a titan, it's going to die even under reps. So if we get a big fight
let's
during
introduce the dreads too first.
If we get a big fight during this war, with supers and titans, you should see supers and titans die on both sides, regardless of DD volleys. So that will be something I'm looking forward to seeing, because obviously we haven't really had a big fight since those mechanics changes, and it is going to make things a lot more bloody. So for me, it'll be interesting to kind of see. I did a lot of work on the kind of capital balancing stuff before the kind of Citadel expansion came out, and the diminishing returns was introduced after, and we haven't really seen those mechanics really come to fruition yet. So I'm kind of looking forward to see that in the coming months, hopefully. But we shall see, I suppose.
I don't know, man. The concept of, if you're gonna allow passive income through the TTT in a group like that, like to where they can all make money and like goons are making money off this TTT thing, and they are using that money to fund the war versus test. I just think that if you're going to allow passive income into something like OTech 2.0 to be created, then more than just the blocks should be able to get into it. I don't know.
Yeah, but how would you do that,
right? I know, I'm
I think it's the combination, really. It's the combination, really, of it being a keep start and so hard to kill in high sec, and the fact that like coalitions are built to kind of stand together for mutual benefit. Just because, I mean, if, as you say, if you have a fort, even if the defenders bring enough people to kill all the attackers, it's probably still going to die, just sheer amount of people shooting it and the amount of time it's going to take to kill them all. But as you say, that, you know, it doesn't really work that way for a keep star because of the DPS numbers and the damage caps involved. So yeah, something there is a bit off whack. But you know, what do you change? Because the thing is, if you change that right and make it killable under that many people with subcaps, the moment you get like a fight in null sec or low sec where caps can be involved, you break the balance of a keep star fight in low sec and null sec by doing it, because suddenly you can just use a load of subcaps and kill the thing from underneath your enemy.
Well, so the argument would also always be like, if you like, the damage cap is one argument, but then also the difference with pauses was also you could wrap it, right? So why not have like both sides? Like, you shoot it and now the other side has to wrap it up and then expose themselves doing that. And you know, in a fight, you wouldn't have just to, you know, bring enough damage and then shoot it through, but you would also have to have enough damage to kill the rappers, right? So, you know.
So, well, I mean, do you do that and remove the damage cap though?
In that case, you would. Yeah, I mean, you can't have reps and damage cap. I mean, that would be crazy.
Well, no, yeah, but if you remove the damage cap, you have to increase the HP.
Yes,
because if you got like 15 million armor and then these Titans are doing 120,000 damage a volley every 6 seconds.
They just come in and doomsday your keeps though.
Yeah. Even if you can't doomsday, the DPS they do is just insane, right?
Yeah, obviously,
So,
that you need to rebalance the hit points and all that stuff, right? Obviously.
But I mean, then do you give them resistances or mods so that they can fit resist? I mean, I think that would be quite a nice idea. Like if they give them like energized adaptive nanomembranes for keep stars or whatever the fuck they're called these days, and then you can remote rep and tank them with facts the same way you would any other ship, effectively.
And then to a degree, right? So you could extend. I mean, there's the ceiling, but I think every fact still reps 10% of what it does, right? So you can still stack it up. It's just not as effective anymore, right? So you can still. It doesn't go to 0 though. It does never go to 0.
Well, it won't go to 0, but it's so little it might as well be 0. Is the thing.
Oh, I thought it was like topped out at like 10%. So like whatever facts you add, like at some point it's only 10% of the rep power. I thought it was the number actually. But yeah, if there's anyone, guys, since we're pushing it close to 2 hours almost, if there's anyone in chat who has like good questions or anything, bring them up right now. But yeah, I don't know where Seddow went. But other than that, I think we should probably leave it at this and call it. That Seddow is returning. Getting ready to sit down. There you go. Seddow was just saying, like, I think
Sorry.
we're getting close to 2 hours, so I'm gonna like maybe answer 1 or 2 questions in chat. Or do you guys have anything like particular you want to bring up?
What do you think about dreads right now? Do you think all 4 types of dreads are balanced? What do you think the rev
You
is
mean all
overpowered?
5?
Or 5, I guess, if you count the dumbs in Rada.
I think dreads are. I mean, dreads are alright. I think they're in a good place now.
Okay.
I believe so. Why?
I think the rev's overpowered. I think the rev's.
Well, yes.
If
I
you were
mean,
to,
yeah. If you wanna compare all 4 dreads to each other, yeah, the rev is like obviously in a way better place.
I mean,
but at
like,
the same time,
yeah.
You can.
I don't mean like in terms of like,
them.
oh, is the dread in a good place on the capital level? I mean, like, is a revelation better than is like on all 4 of the dreads compared to each other? Do you think it's not correct or whatever?
I mean, I think the rev is way stronger. I mean, everyone knows it. Every dread fight you see, it's mostly revs. But then you can spectate them to a degree. So, but then the optimal range of morals, like you might as well. You need to be on 0. So
it also makes a big difference in low sec as well, because obviously everyone in low sec with dread with revs uses slaves, whereas if you go null sec, they're not going to have slaves, and you can spec tank your Naglfars and shoot fusion into them.
As we saw, as when Goons deployed to what was that? Tate snuffed out.
F7C. Yeah, we were in the same boat, right?
Yeah,
I saw the fucking situation though. I mean, Shines and I, we sat down, we said like, shit, like what are we gonna do? Like we can't efficiently trade with Snuff with the same numbers of dreads. And if we bring more, they're just gonna bail anyway. So like, what's the point in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Well, the armor
we have to bring
Star. They had like 200. They had 200 dreads.
The armor timer of the fort and Llama, they had, and once they bat phone, I mean, but Snuff on their own had 120 dreads. Like
that's a lot of dreads.
So it's a fucking lot of dreads, man.
Yeah.
Not easy. We had a problem though, didn't we? Because RC has always traditionally like dropped a few dreads, waited for the enemy to drop all of the dreads, and then we jump supers in at range. So when it came to someone that could drop 30 dreads and then drop 30 more dreads and drop 30 more dreads, it was a fucking problem because we didn't have enough dreads to chase them around the field and make them commit. So it meant that we couldn't field supers because they dropped dreads on top of us and we'd die in a fire. And we didn't have enough dreads to take the fight. So when we went back for the whole timer, we played the cowards game and pinged around the grid in Artimax, 2 different Artimac fleets, just pinging opposite sides of the fort and just tick the timer down.
When all the faction forts are gone in this game, that's going to suck because, to be honest, I think they're a great content generator. Like when Vert said that on your last stream, or you had a stream a few nights ago that Vert was on. I think faction forts are a great content generator, and I wish there were more things like it. But I understand if you have unlimited access and they aren't a good content generator. It's going to be sad though when there's very little left in the game.
Well, yeah. I didn't even think about faction forts all that much.
Well, like we threw RC and Siege Green and friends of ours through what almost 1 trill ISK at this thing.
Yeah, between all three fights, Shield Armor Hall, it was 900 bill on our side lost and about 500 on Snuffs.
Was there really 1,300? Okay, all right. Philly's got me wrong then. Never mind. There's plenty of faction forts in the game as of right now. Never mind. But like we threw all that ISK at it. If it was a regular fort, I don't think we would have thrown that much ISK at it.
Well,
you know?
Sometimes those fights just escalate. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I forgot what
for the whole timer, we only went back because we just fed 500 bill on the armor timer. So like, I ain't fucking letting this thing rep now, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Like, but like, that's the thing. Like, I think the low sec, especially, man, those fights, most people are like, it's gonna be a brawl. We're probably gonna lose all of this, but fuck it, let's do it. That's the one big thing I've noticed is the difference. Like, people in low sec are more willing to try to just throw down and try it than in nullsec, and I get why, because in nullsecs you have a lot more risk of super and titans, and old low sec you had Snuff who controlled all low sec with fucking supers and titans, but besides like derelict. But like nowadays where it's just dreads galore, everyone's like, all right, let's fucking just throw dreads at it and brawl it out, baby, let's do it.
I think in general there's more people out there than people realize, or than most FCs also in nullsec realize, that are willing to lose a dread, lose a couple dreads if it's done right. But yeah, it's still risky. At the same time,
counts, isn't it? It's definitely doing it right that counts, because like you can go in and you can lose a fight and you can feed horribly and do it all right, or you can just go in and it's obviously going to fail from the start, and that's where people get pissed off, right?
Yeah. That's the key part, right? They wanna still know that you did it right? It might fail at times, but you still have to deliver at the same time. People will claim that they don't care about losing a dread or whatever, but after 2 dreads that they feel like, and they don't know, but they feel like was unnecessary, they're not gonna lose a 3rd dread, right? So like you have to also keep that in mind, I guess. All right, guys, any good questions in chat? If not, I would say we call it right here. Anyone wanna have a last word? Change citadels? Don't change them. Like what are we taking from this one? I don't know anymore. Right? I don't know anymore.
Satonia says that Seddow would be a hot girl.
Hey man, yeah. I don't know.
I can see that.
I started going back to the gym this semester, man. Getting my football muscles back. I feel good.
Hey, you know who? Like, did you see Jim Tan? He's not called Jim Tan, right?
No, I haven't.
You haven't? He actually tweeted. Yeah, he actually tweeted saying like since the lockdown he went to gym and he did like a before and after picture. You wouldn't fucking recognize the guy. You really wouldn't. Like, crazy, right?
I'm just ready to go to New Orleans again come March or May. I'm gonna end up back over there, and I'm just gonna barge into Pro God's place and get drunk with him. It's just gonna happen. Eve New Orleans, baby. Let's do it.
I'm gonna link the tweet afterwards, guys. I'm gonna look it up quickly. But
don't embarrass him.
What? Embarrass him? There's nothing embarrassing about that.
Eve New Orleans, baby. Let's bring it back.
Hell yeah, Delana.
Yeah, I hope there's gonna be Eve meets very soon again, but I guess we have to be patient.
Never been to an Eve meet. I've only met one person in real life that I played Eve with. Actually, 2 people. One of them being Minerva Albosa. I bet them both in New Orleans. The leader of Warped Intentions, and then the second one being DJ Aldrad. And I met him in New Orleans too. Both very good people.
I was supposed to go to FanFest, and it was going to be my first Eve meet, and then the Rona hit.
Yeah,
I've been to like 4 FanFests and 3 Vegas. No, 2 Vegas.
Oh.
And then like loads of the UK ones, but I don't know. I've been doing it for like the last like 8 to 10 years now, and I think I'm at least done with flying internationally for Eve meets now. I've done my bit. I've shaken as many hands as possible, got as many germs. No COVID ones yet, so
I was
we'll keep it that way.
I was supposed to go, like, I keep almost going to Eve meets. I was supposed to go to Eve Vegas, and then I had some military training that I couldn't like take the time off to go there. So
You're in the
then
military? Hold on.
I am.
You're in the,
I'm in the army.
what, okay, never mind. Never mind.
What were you about to say?
Dude,
Nothing.
ask. I don't know.
You got shut
I-
down
I-
before you said anything, bro.
well, because I was gonna say what army, like, but I didn't want to get too
The
personal.
American one. I was like,
Okay, thank God. I didn't know if you were like Canadian or something. Like I met people who I thought were like American. Like, no, I'm Canadian, bro. And some people get offended when I say what country they're from because like, why you care about my personal life? All right, I'm sorry. That's why I
why do you
stopped
care
myself
about the country I'm from?
because I was just asking. That's why.
No, you can tell though. Like if you listen to me and then you listen to Billy, like the accents are completely different.
I
He's
thought
got
Billy
a-
was from the U.S. for the longest time. Not
sure
gonna
He
lie.
says a boot.
Sure, I speak
Dudes.
with Pando as well when I think you all sound pretty similar.
When I go to Germany, people think that I'm British because they don't understand, like they can't hear the difference in the accents, even though to like British and Americans,
You know
it's
what?
completely different.
I think like we don't pay too much attention to like accents. When I had Headliner on, I thought he was from the US because I always thought like PL, that's US time zone mostly. So like he must be from the US, right? So like I didn't even think about it, but he has such a fucking British accent.
He's
like I
a
don't even
London
think
boy.
about it for a sec. Yeah. So like, who cares? Alrighty, guys, let's cut it right here. Okay, 2 hours. Alrighty. Thanks for coming on, both of you. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I know I did. And there's no pub link, Hero. Alright? No pub links.
There's
And
no moose
Billy-
regiment.
Billy, that's just what they want us to think.
Say what?
Billy says there's no moose regiment, but it's
Oh my
it's a
God.
trick. It's a diversion. That's just what they want us to think.
I don't even know what that is. Guys,
Don't worry.
see you around and see you on the next one. And let's see who can we host. But I'll also link the tweet from Jim Tan, right?
Jim Ton Laundry.
Alright, so give me a sec. Alrighty, guys. And see ya around.
Let's